Welcome back, everybody. Protobro here, infamous brother to Mega Bro. Continuing on with the AGEOD Civil War II Let's Play as a Confederacy. Let me preface this with saying the audio in this this recording got jacked up, so I'm re-recording the audio. But if my talking here doesn't seem to add up with what you were seeing on the screen, that's my bad. So kind of what I'm doing here is I'm running you through all my different moves from west to east. I am moving troops back from that fortified area there because I can't really accomplish a siege with just that infantry there, the mounted volunteer brigade. So I pull them back. I am retaking, though, these forts here, as you can see. I'm going to try anyways. I've got Baylor moving on the center there, and then I'm going to be taking that other fort back just to reconnect New Mexico with Arizona. And then I'm going to slowly try and get the military control up so I can kind of move north. As you can see, not a whole lot going over here just yet. But I would love to take, at some point in probably late 62, move on up here. Now, I would note, I am not sure if I said this in the last video, I was not using demonstrations as effectively as I could. If you use demonstrations in the area where the Union has gold deposits, then you can get their loyalty down far enough to where you can use partisan cards. And so you can actually use a partisan to take the mine locations. So what I'm going to do here is I'm looking to take these military control, get it more favorable to me, so that hopefully I can attack from west to, or from east to west, my hope. As you can see here, we are taking out some of the forts that used to be over here, but the weather is pretty nasty. So hopefully I can get this guy out of here. I don't know if I'll be able to. I think he's gonna die, which is a little unfortunate. Might suffer a morale hit, but oh well. Maybe he'll get away. We'll see. He's out of food and out of pretty much everything, actually. We've got 110 national morale, which is good. As you can see here, over in Missouri, not a whole lot going on. We got foreign intervention at 10%. I might trigger some events here shortly to get that higher. I like to wait until the national foreign intervention is a little bit higher before I start using cards on it. Here's what we've got in Springfield. Pretty robust force there. We are besieging St. Louis. So my hope is this turn we will assault and take St. Louis, which is pretty phenomenal. I did not expect to get that far north before getting pushed back. So if we can take St. Louis, this can be a huge, huge victory for us. They are moving Grant over, though. That's why I burned these railroads. I've got Polk kind of holding the line behind the river. I think I could hold off Grant there, but I destroyed both of those railroads, making it much more difficult for him to advance. And really, I just put him over there, Polk, that being, is for this very reason, to keep Grant or any reinforcements away from St. Louis long enough to take it out. So down here, we do have, we've got I got to take out Chester, Illinois, mainly just to protect my supply line along the river there. And then I will probably, once I take St. Louis, start moving some of the Springfield forces either forward towards Kansas or northeast to reinforce St. Louis. Now, it's too bad I blew up Rolla City, because I could probably use that now. But, oh well. At the time, it seemed like a good idea, right? And then also, too, I do have the military control option on, overlay on, because I got a request for that. So, as you can see, the blue is the Union military control, gray is us. I do have some ironclads here, holding down the Ohio and the Mississippi to kind of keep the Union from hitting me in my rear or coming down and hitting Fort Donelson or whatnot. I'm going to build a fort right in here. That is Paducah, and it's got a nice little good vantage point. Basically, if he comes down with ships either down the Mississippi or down the Ohio to take out Henry or Fort Donelson, Paducah can shoot guns at him. So Paducah is a very important spot for the Confederacy. I will be putting artillery all the way down the Mississippi, so you'll see me, I'm investing a lot of money right now on artillery to put it all the way down the Mississippi. Here is, as you see, an ironclad led by Buchanan, who I brought all the way over from Richmond, and I'm going to join him with other ironclads and additional vessels to hold down the Ohio and the Mississippi. Again, I'm hoping between my fleet and Paducah, I can make it very painful for the Union to move any kind of naval fleet down to Fort Donelson, which is that fort down towards Nashville. So, as you can see down here, we also built a force down in Louisiana. Here's what I'm currently building in New Orleans. And then I'm going to probably move some of my fleet up to support Ohio and the Mississippi, simply because I'm pretty thin on land up here right now, since most of my force is up here at St. Louis. Here's what I have in St. Louis, the Army of the Tennessee. And notice we're well under our command points that we would need to function this army. My deepest and sincerest hope is I can take St. Louis this turn. I'm red, which means all in. Hopefully I can get it before the Union can bring over sufficient reinforcements to push me out. Not a whole lot going on over in the Kentucky area, just because most of my forces are sucked up in St. Louis, but I may move forward Johnston actually into Kentucky. As you can see, West Virginia, he's got Kanawha, but Lewis, West Virginia on down. I created divisions here with some artillery, mostly 6-pounders. Again, 6-pounders are kind of, they don't really do a whole lot, but they help a little bit. My biggest worry, though, is I want to make sure I don't lose Lewis, because then the Union can come down and take Pulaski, Virginia, or something like that, cut off my railroad system. So I do have to kind of watch this area, just make sure they don't push through. But I could always fall back behind the river if absolutely necessary. It doesn't seem like they've paid much attention to West Virginia just yet, but as you can see, if you as a Union take Lewis, it kind of opens up the central area of the Confederacy. Now he has got a boatload of troops over here, 8,000 power. Wow. As you can see, a lot of generals. I'm not really seeing anything impressive here, though, as far as the generals are concerned. Most of the 311s. So, if he wanted to push me out of Alexandria, he could probably do it. I mean, I've got 2,000 power. I have better generals, as you can see. However, I feel like at this point he just brought force pushed through me. I don't know. Mansfield's got 1,500 power in of himself. I feel like that's he's probably over the cap. I imagine their command points are suffering pretty bad if you get 8,000 power. Up here I got Stonewall. He promoted to 2-star. That's why he is now lead of this force. I need... I want to push west and take Morgantown, because it is a strategic location. I'm kind of waiting for the weather to go away, and then I need to use Thomas to use. I feel like I'm wasting him, so... I am going to also need to invest in increased river and railroad when that comes back. Right now I don't have a whole lot of money, so I'm going to use that option to get my river transports up, though. It just confiscates some ships to make that happen. And then you can see I got a little bit of a secondary defense. These guys are more here just to get the entrenchment level going. So the entrenchment 4. Obviously they wouldn't really be able to hold anybody off. But once I'm forced to fall back, at least I'll have those entrenchments already there. Alright, so there you go. This is my line of defense, is Alexandria to Leesburg to Harper's Ferry. And then secondary line of defense is my little fort there, and then Manassas Junction over to Winchester. Over here, I'm pretty worried about this. I mean, if the Union wanted, they could sail up just like McClellan did in 62 and make a move on Richmond. So I'm beginning to do what I should have done in early 61 probably, or mid 61, or at least by autumn. Build up forces to cover the James River, Richmond, and really create that second line of defense. So I'm putting the Marines up here with Thomas to make it that much harder for them to cross the river and attack me. And I still don't have Lee, unfortunately. Alright, so another big thing that's going to go on down here. I'm moving a whole ton of troops into Dublin, North Carolina. I'm not quite sure what he's got there, but next turn, after everyone's moved into here, I should have something like an 800 power force or something. and I'm going to move on him and try and push him out. So I've got kind of a combination of light for volunteers and then also normal line infantry. We've got Walker, who's one of our newer generals. He's got fast movement. Forney's probably going to lead it because he's a 2-star. So anyways, I'm going to put a boatload of troops in here. Hopefully have enough to sweep him out of the way. But yeah, so also I like to have, by the way, every stack, I like to have each division have a sharpshooter, whether it's an actual infantry card that has a sharpshooter element within it, or the individual sharpshooter. So here's some of the battles that happened. Battle of Wilmington, we did lose. Now he's got 8,000. We had 522, so it's not surprising that we lost. But it's good to know. So he's got about 7,700 troops down there right now. That's the place we're going to hit next turn. As you can see, just hit a lot more divisions than we did, so that's fine. All right, Confederate victory. Battle of St. Louis. So we took St. Louis, it looks like. Oh, no, we did not take it. We are still sieging it. Sorry, I got a little excited there. And gunboats. So I thought those might be gunboats, but they weren't. They were just some transports. So I want to secure this area, though, because like I was saying previously, that is my supply line. So that's going to be my most exposed area. Now, I did put out a request for volunteers, so I think it was like $1. Yeah, it was $1 per volunteer. Rule of thumb, if you've got high national morale, like we do right now, 110, you don't necessarily have to put money in to get volunteers, but I like to try and keep my conscript numbers pretty high. Let's see here. So for the messages, 5 money, 7 more supply from the blockade. St. Charles, we got 6 supply carts and 6 crates of ammo. Nothing else major going on. Does not look like anyway. Who? St. Louis is really where the main thing is. We captured a 12-pounder with that Battle of St. Louis, which is awesome. Anything else? Again, current me is doing the audio for previous me, and previous me does not see anything of note necessarily. Previous me is looking through the battles, retreats, and sieges, and I don't think we're going to find anything in here from what I recall. I think we already covered the big ones. Okay, anything on the movements? By the way, in the multiplayer game I'm playing with my buddy right now, it never ceases to drive you absolutely nuts. So by the way, you can see I'm building a ton of artillery for defensive purposes. When you've got your enemy on the rope, you're ready to just smash them, and your freaking general fails to make their activation roll. I like a 2,000 power army about to wallop on his 900 power amphibious force, and my army general, who's actually not too bad, failed to make his activation roll. So he didn't attack. Which means he, being my opponent, now has... so by the way, I'm building a little bit more elite regiments there, some more light, a bunch of line infantry, more artillery. So basically I put a lot of money in this turn to my elements. But now it means that he can come in and reinforce his troops if he is so inclined. Pretty frustrating, not gonna lie, because I was ready to push him back in the ocean and was unable to do so. Alright, so, and by the way, I did slow down the AI thinking in the options tab. Someone mentioned that so apparently it does make the AI a little bit more effective and challenging doing that. I don't know if that's true, but might as well try and see. And I'm gonna fast forward through here, and actually, you know what? I'm gonna hold on because I think, if I recall correctly, something big happens over at St. Louis. So let's hold tight. We're almost there. 15 days. That's all the supply getting moved along there. Okay, so now the battle phase. And movement phase. I do like my layers in Virginia. I feel like if we get hit pretty hard at Manassas or whatnot, we'll at least be able to fall back pretty effectively. I'm a little concerned about over at St. Louis. He's got all the rail systems and so forth, so he can bring over reinforcements pretty rapidly, whereas not only do we have a longer route to go to bring up reinforcements, we don't have a whole lot of reinforcements to bring up right now. So I'm trying to build them up, but we'll see. Hey! Confederate victory at Battle of St. Louis. Yes! We just absolutely walloped him. Look at that. Looks like we took St. Louis. Brilliant. Beautiful. Whew. I was really worried there that like any second he'd bring up like a fat stack of reinforcements or something. Grant is making his way over, so they look like they intend to make some sort of counterattack, but... Alright, so I've got the Ohio and Mississippi locked down, looks like. Uh-oh, what's going on down there? He's got ships down by... He went down the Mississippi. I don't know if he's intending to make a amphibious assault down there or what. There's more ships over there. So now the question's going to be over in the west. What do I do next? I'm expecting him to attack over in Virginia anytime now. Maybe he's waiting for the weather to clear up. Taking St. Louis is huge, by the way, for the Confederacy, because what it effectively does is it isolates Missouri and some of Kansas from the Union. So it almost secures Missouri for the Confederacy so long as you have St. Louis, because it's very difficult for the Union to transport reinforcements to Kansas and down to Missouri. They can do it, but it's a pain in the ass. And then also what it does for us is it opens up a pocket to move up into Illinois, up to Springfield, perhaps. So effectively what it does, it puts the Union on their heels. Now, instead of them thinking about invading Missouri, they're... oh, he's trapped. Oh, that's too bad. I think he's gonna go the way of the ground. The way of the Undertaker. Alright, so we've got our ironclad moving up here to reinforce our... I guess you kind of say a blockade of the Ohio and Mississippi. Okay, so let me pause here. I don't know what I'm doing right now, so I'm doing a zigzag thing. All right, let me pause. Be right back, and we'll pick it up where we left off. Okay, welcome back, everybody. I just went ahead and fast forward a little bit there so I could get us squared away. I didn't want you sitting there watching me go spastic with the mouse and the map. All right, so we're over here in Virginia. Look at this. So 7,800, but we have 2,000, which isn't bad. I mean, but and this is a big but. We are good on our command points. We have 16 out of 20. I gotta imagine with this 7,800 stack, his command points below. So we got Ewell, by the way. So now this is 2-2, but when the next turn after... So, by the way, there's a bug with the game, and I didn't realize this at first. When you take a commander who has, say, like Ewell, I think he's got like 4 attack, for example, 4 and 2. When you make him a division commander, some of those stats go away. They come back the next turn. It's a bug. He's not actually a 2 strategic, 2 offense, 0 defense. He's something like 4-4-2 or something like that. So very, very impressive stats. Somebody who definitely won as division commander as a Confederacy. We just got him this turn, so gave him a division, obviously, forthwith. Alexander has a bonus to artillery, so kind of like Huger. So I've got him in there, and then I've got Huger elsewhere. I think I took Huger and put him over in the Western Theater to give one of my armies in the West that bonus. Again, I'm not totally shutting off the possibility of taking Morgantown once the weather clears. If I do that, I will probably use an army commander so that Thomas Stonewall Jackson gets the benefit of a commander. I'm pulling these cavalry back because they're about spent on supply, but what I'm just trying to do is get military control all the way over to Morgantown. So that's the plan. And if the Union's going to let me do it, then heck, might as well do it, right? Now, the problem is, from the Confederacy standpoint, is that DC theoretically can move all the way from where they're at into Harper's Ferry in one turn using that railroad system. So that is a problem. Now, I only have 440 here at the moment. However, I have got a larger number of troops coming. So I think by the time everything is said and done, we should have about a 900 power force down there that we can use to push against Wilmington and hopefully get that back. We are up to 114 national morale. A lot of that's due to the fact we took St. Louis. I'm tempted here pretty soon, another major victory, I'm tempted to pull the trigger on the cotton embargo to get our foreign invention even higher, with the ultimate goal being really putting the Union on the heels with foreign intervention and so forth. So here we are over St. Louis, and kind of here's my thinking, and I'm not sure about this, but we're going to try it, start seeing how it goes. Again, the move on St. Louis again was kind of wishful thinking. I wasn't expecting to get all the way up there, but I can. So this is all muddy, unfortunately, so it's going to make it very difficult for us to move through, but also for the Union, so that's key. I'm going to start trying to fix the railroad system between Springfield and St. Louis, get that fixed. I'm going to move Johnston up forward across the river towards Salem, over where Polk is. I am also going to move troops up to Bloomington, Missouri. So here's my idea. I'm going to take Bloomington, cut the Union off completely from Kansas, because that's their only route to Kansas now. And then by holding that, because it's behind a river, which is very nice, plus it produces 75 supply and 1 recruit every turn, which obviously we could use. I then can hold that and eventually press over to take Leavenworth over in Kansas. That's my idea. Anyways, the problem here is that right now the Union is reeling from the St. Louis loss. They're not in position to deal with me right now. But because they've got military control of 100 along that entire railroad, I can't push up into Bloomington this turn. Otherwise, I would, and I'd be in really good shape. So I did take Jefferson, Missouri, using the Copperheads, but if I could redo all of this, and maybe you could take this as a learning point, I would have used cavalry while attacking St. Louis to start building up that military control for me around St. Louis, so that as soon as St. Louis was taken, I could move on to the next objective using the rail system. So I do have Salem held, although it looks like he's kind of punching through a little bit. I'm going to try and hold this area up here just north of Paducah. So Paducah's obviously a very important threshold, but I'm going to actually push my defensive line even more forward, up across past where, was that Columbia, I think it is? Cairo. Sorry, I'm going to push my defense up where Cairo is and go from there. So here's the military control, as you can see, over in the west. Yes, very nice. I haven't ruled out the possibility of pressing west over to take the gold mines. So as you can see, all this over here, this is all Union military control, but here's the gold mines over here. So if I can get over here, that would be very, very good, because you get 10,000 big ones for taking those gold mines. Over here, 10,000 big ones. We can desperately use money. As you can see in the top there, we only have 1 money, but we have 392 conscripts and 115 war supply. So we are hurting for money. That's the bottom line there. So I need to get military control of all this, though. And the only way I can do that is take some of these forts. Now, if I had planned ahead back in 61, perhaps I wouldn't have burned all the forts that I burned. But I did. So now I need to go take some of these U.S. forts and use them as my stomping ground to go west. So Bloomington looks like it'll be, potentially, hopefully. And then we'll push east towards Springfield, Illinois, take Leavenworth perhaps. Springfield is now safe in my opinion. So I've got to decide in which direction I'm going to move my troops in Springfield. St. Louis is the priority. Got to make sure St. Louis is protected. But Denver is looking pretty nice. The gold over here is looking nice. Leavenworth, being a strategic city, is looking nice. And all of that kind of boosts our national morale as well. So we'll see. All right, so here's New Mexico and Arizona. Tucson obviously is a strategic location. We've got Baylor here, or Baylor, I'm not sure how those names pronounced. Building some more mounted volunteers. Those guys are actually pretty awesome, mounted volunteers. Sieging Fort Cummings. I took Fort Thornback, and I'm going to put Baylor over there with them. I'm not sure why he's hanging out in Missoula. Then I need to move over to take Pino Altos back again. And it looks like Tucson, for whatever reason, is safe. I don't know where he went. I don't know if he jumped over and went to Prima Village or what he did. But maybe he's hanging out in Fort Cummings. I don't know. But we are going to reunite all of this. And then I would like to try and take Pima Village because that's a nice little defensive buffer on Tucson. Or start going up through the northern area up here. See, as you can see there's a little military control. Start getting this military control so we can push north along the Rio Grande and perhaps move up towards Denver. Alright, so let's bounce back over here. Again, this is Prior Me. Not sure what Prior Me is doing. Yes, Prior Me. We already talked about Bloomington, Missouri. Talked about Leavenworth. Yeah, we talked about that. I'm about to fast forward Prior Me if I don't hurry up. That's right. Okay, so Johnston. I'm actually pushing forward into Kentucky with Johnston. Now, I do not have the force that I would like to have. Oh, we got Bedford Forest. Here we go. All right, so this guy is awesome. He's a military genius. So he has surprise level 2, 20% chance of surprising the enemy, first fire for the whole stack under his command. He is a patriot, so he gives a 5-point bonus to cohesion and a 20% cohesion recovery. He's a very fast cavalryman, so 25 move bonus to all units under his command. Deep raider, so he's seen that one before. And then he's also a cavalryman, so he gives bonuses to cavalry. I need to put him into Johnston's army. So I don't know if I do that this turn or when, but I need to do that. I'm going to push into Kentucky with Johnston. Here's my thinking. This may cause the Union to respond to my push into Kentucky. Unfortunately, it's all mountainous and snow and harsh weather. So it's going to be hard to push through Kentucky. But as you can see here, my center is very weak. I am going to build a fort here in Paducah with this artillery and this supply, my 6-pound artillery. But I don't have a whole lot of troops yet. So what I hope to do is by pushing into Kentucky, all these forces that he may be shifting to St. Louis will kind of stop and think twice and force him to choose between Cincinnati and Lexington or St. Louis and force him to kind of spread out. And then I can always stop behind the river there up at Lexington and go on the defensive and at least keep him off St. Louis's back long enough for me to develop a pretty significant defense up there. Okay, so I think with that, we're about done here. As you can see, here's the terrain. The weather is just absolutely horrendous in West Virginia. And then down here, we got a bunch of mud in Virginia. And then again, very harsh weather here in Kentucky, mud up in this area right here. This is my attempt to kind of give you a multi-layered view of the game rather than just the military control or the movements. I'm also going to show you the weather. Here is the build. Again, lots and lots of artillery. We did. By the way, so that Riverclad in St. Louis, Missouri, we captured that. So we got a free Riverclad and a free 12-pounder out of taking St. Louis. So I'm building these mounted infantry dudes as an attempt to perhaps start seizing the day over in the far west. And then I'm building some additional elements and whatnot. But with that, I think I'm going to cycle the turn. Let's go ahead and cycle the turn. I just want to show you, yeah, that. I stole that. Heck yeah. Now, those are expensive to build, and we just got one for free. So that is awesome. Very awesome. So, okay, there we go. I built one more elite elements since I need 20 and I only have 1. Again, the rule on this is that you don't necessarily need 20, but you maybe need 1 or 2 to fill that 20 because those are hits that were suffered on the battlefield or new units that you're building. And then as you can see, all this artillery, and do need some more supply trains. I'll have to build that in the next turn. So as you see here, I do have the option to increase river pool and rail pool. I will do that next turn. As the Confederacy, you want to always try and stay on top of that. Every turn or every other turn, whenever possible, upgrade those because you use a lot. And more so for the Confederacy than the Union, mobility is key. You need to be able to get many places very quickly, very often. So proceeding to the next turn, and then we will be into late Feb and moving on to the next video. So I don't think a whole lot happens during this turn phase, so I'm going to call it a day, and I will see you in the next episode where we go over all of the developments between early and late Feb and figure out what we're going to do over in St. Louis, and then also probably witness the epic battle down at Wilmington. So thank you for your time, everybody. As always, please like if you found the video interesting. It just lets other people find the game and perhaps expose them to something they wouldn't have known otherwise. So thank you, everybody.